You're listening to the Soulless Minions of Orthodoxy alternative DVD commentaries. Our film for today is from 1988. It is called Willow. It stars Warwick Davis, Val Kilmer, Joanne Whaley, directed by Ron Howard. And we have a very special guest today, Tysto from Tysto.com. Say hello.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
It's going good.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. It's a pleasure. Justin and I usually don't have any preamble before the show. We just like to jump right in. So we're going to do that today. And if you want to watch the film with us, we're going to need to set up a sync point. And that sync point is the first black frame after the Lucas logo has faded to black, and which on our counter clocks is about 7 seconds. So I'm going to give you a countdown, and when you hear me say unpause, you unpause, we'll unpause, and we'll do so together. Watch it in sync. All right, so get your remotes ready. 3, 2, 1, unpause.
Imagine Entertainment. A film by Ron Howard. Perfect, okay.
All right, we're going to get in the setup. It is a time of dread. I like this, the smoke effect.
I like the smoke, and I'm glad to know that it's dreadful.
A little legend up front. How do you feel about legends up front in these movies?
You know, I'm kind of on the fence with it. It's funny you use the word legends. I was just thinking of Legend, and with Tom Cruise, and they have a title card like that scrolling up telling you what a legend is, blah 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 blah. And I find it completely obtrusive and totally gets in the way. This I think was fine. I think it was quick and wasn't too bad. But generally, I can live without them.
Yeah, it's not the short story that Lucas put at the beginning of Star Wars, is it?
Yeah, you're right.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Star Wars, because I think this film borrows kind of heavily.
I've actually heard many critiques that it robs heavily from Lord of the Rings.
Well, I was going to say that as well.
And having seen Lord of the Rings. Yeah, okay. I can see both.
Well, as I like to do, if anybody out there listening is listened to a commentary by Justin and myself, I like to read the source material if it was based on a book, or read the novelization. And there is a novelization of Willow, which I've read and enjoyed. I wouldn't say it works by itself, but it's a fun read. I'd say it's more of a companion piece to the movie. It expands upon the characters and gives you backstory. Right now we can see Sorsha right there. You can see her back, present by her red hair, very red hair. You get a lot of her backstory, and also the backstory of Bavmorda and one of the Nelwyn warriors, Vunkar, which I found interesting. Even though it's not completely necessary to watch the movie, no. But
I was just thinking, since we mentioned the similarities to Lord of the Rings, now I'm actually finding myself comparing some of these characters to the Lord of the Rings character. Like Mad Mardigan is obviously Aragorn or Aragon.
Or Han Solo.
Well, I suppose. I think he's more like Aragon. Joanne Whaley Kilmer's character here, I don't know. I guess the closest she is to the elf. What's her name? Or no, maybe the blonde that comes in Two Towers. But obviously the hobbits are clearly tied into this. It's very similar to Lord of the Rings. I see why Lucas was attacked by that.
Yeah, I know. I saw this in the theater in 1988, and it's one of the things certainly that I and my friends talked about as a little too obvious. Like, sure, we love the Lord of the Rings, and we'd love to see it made into a movie, but you don't have to. If you could make some other movie that didn't borrow quite so heavily from it. I did like the idea that they're protecting a baby, and there's something to do with a legend around that was different from trying to destroy a ring. But it's a road movie with some short guys and some tall guys and some magic involved, and it's really kind of similar. And dogs dress up as rats.
Yeah, Princess Bride. They look like Princess Bride once.
That's right, rodents of unusual size. Well, Speaking of the novelization, like I said, it does expand upon things, and it really reminded me of Lord of the Rings in terms of its setting. It really tries to set up the realm in which it exists. And I remember...
Is this supposed to be Jesus?
Moses, I think.
Moses, that's what I meant.
Borrowing
Moses. Yeah, I'm thinking of Prince of Egypt.
Yeah.
I remember when I was much younger, I read The Hobbit, and I remember as a fantasy book, of course, it's very heavy on its setting and setting that up. And I remember there's like a big map in the beginning of the book that shows you Mordor and where the hobbits live, and giving you a really good sense of place. And I felt the novel was kind of doing the same thing, setting up the elements and letting you know where they exist in relation to each other, like Nockmar and Galadorn and the Nelwyn village. And it also reminded me of Excalibur in the sense that we're seeing this baby float down the river.
5 minutes.
Elora Danan. She is remind me of Arthur in a sense that she is tied to the land the way Arthur was. Her well-being is tied to the land, because in the novel she was actually saved several times by animals, wild animals that would come to her rescue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was interesting. And later on, she was a goat. Later gave her milk when Willow couldn't find any milk. It was a sense of her being kind of tied to the land, like her well-being and the land's well-being were kind of tied together. So I found that interesting.
Yeah, I think to go back to the Moses idea, it's obviously borrowing from that, but it's also borrowing from the Jesus story in that so there was as part of the Jesus story, I think it was King Herod who was trying to destroy all the male babies, and right?
I'm not sure.
That I want to say that's his name.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's still Moses. Actually, that's why Moses was put into the river. Man, I'm sorry. I'm not up on my Bible the way I am my Lord of the Rings.
I'm reflecting back to the cartoon Prince of Egypt from my reference. It was Patrick Stewart is the one that ordered the assassination. So I mean that's. I gotta say that little boy, I forget his name. He's just friggin' adorable. I mean, look at him.
Both these kids are just about as cute as they can possibly be.
I would have adopted this kid. He's adorable. So is she, actually. She's so cute.
Yeah, there's an X factor to the boy.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Does he have pointy ears?
No, they talked about in his commentary, Warwick Davis talked about, they thought about maybe doing some weird ear thing where they have long earlobes or something, but then they decided that would just be hundreds and it would just be terrible to manage, so they just didn't do anything special.
Now, what do both of you guys have to say about Warwick Davis? I like the guy. I've only seen him in a small handful of things outside of this, but I like the guy. And I think he was, I could be wrong, but I think when he actually filmed this, I want to say he was a teenager.
Yeah, he was very young.
Yeah, he was 17 when he did this, and that was one of the reasons actually Ron Howard was concerned about it, because he was so young and maybe people wouldn't buy him as a father. But
he doesn't look 17.
Yeah, it's hard to tell with a dwarf, I think, in general. But he does a terrific job.
When you see him in the behind the scenes that I think are on the DVD, when he's dressed in his normal street clothes and whatnot, he looks more his age and with a modern day haircut sort of thing. But when he looks like this, like Willow, he looks like he's 30. Yeah,
you can't really tell. But he may have been in movies that you don't even realize, because he's often in costume. He's in he's in all the Harry Potter movies as Flitwick.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember him from those, and he had his little cameo in episode 1, and of course he was Wicket, and
he was in all he was the Leprechaun in all the Leprechaun horror movies.
Yeah, I knew that.
Did he appear in the Great Ewok Adventure?
Yes.
I don't know.
Oh, he did. Okay.
He did Wicket in all 3 cases: Return of the Jedi, Ewok Adventure, and Battle for Endor.
Right. I wasn't sure if the Wicket character transferred over to those. It's been so long since I've seen them. Well, how do you feel about this movie, Tysto, overall? I mean, what are your impressions of it? Has it stayed with you over the years?
Yeah, I own it. I enjoyed it when it came out, and it was something I knew I wanted to revisit later on. And I've watched it recently with my 8-year-old niece and my 8-year-old nephew, and they enjoyed it greatly. I think it's a bit of fluff in terms of a story, and particularly in terms of the screenplay. But overall,
I would tend to agree.
It's tremendously charming, I find.
Oh, definitely. I find that I agree with you. The screenplay is a little fluff or thin, I guess you could say. I mean, the movie is definitely heavier on tone and mood, and I think that's really reflected by the score, the beautiful score by James Horner. I think you would agree.
You know what? Even my nephew, though, at 8 years old, he's a Star Wars nut, noticed the cribbing from Star Wars in that main theme.
Oh, like A Hero's Journey?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the name of the piece is, but sort of the main theme of Willow cribs from the Star Wars Tatooine. That is that the name of the piece when Luke is staring at the two suns?
Binary Sunset.
Yeah.
I think that's what the track is called.
Oh, I see.
And then in this one, I think what you're referring to is, I think it's actually called Willow's Theme.
Willow's Theme, yeah.
Yeah.
There's not a
Kenny Baker is in that band.
Yeah, I just saw him there.
Yeah. There's only about 8 tracks, I think.
Yeah, they're long,
very long. Yeah, they're
long
very
tracks.
Long. But it's a beautiful score. James Horner is one of my favorite composers.
Yeah, it's terrific. It works perfectly.
I like that the music here, the Nelwyns kind of have their own kind of separate music. Kind of brings you into their world.
Their village music.
It's kind of like the Ewoks, so to speak.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Before, Lucas did the special edition and changed it.
I could swear that was Peter Dinklage over on the left in the beard, but he's not credited.
Is he the guy that plays in the movie Elf?
Yes.
That comes along. Okay, yeah, I saw him.
And the station agent and that sort of. I love Peter Dinklage.
Yeah,
I could have sworn that was him. He's a year older than Warwick Davis, so he could have been in this movie, but it's not on his IMDb page.
No,
was
I recognized
he one
him.
of the Time Bandits?
No, he was not Time Bandits.
He was not.
No, it's a whole different crew of guys.
Well, that's a whole nother movie that needs a commentary.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there he is, right there in the background. You see him?
Yeah.
Yeah, right there. Oh yeah, very distinctive face.
Yeah, when doing some research for this movie, I found that it wasn't quite the financial success they'd hoped for. That it was a bit of a disappointment theatrically, but ended up making a profit on home video because it was popular with the young crowd. And
well, I wonder why it didn't hit well. Was it up against something that was just too big?
Not that I recall. Critically, it didn't fare too well either.
Well, critics probably knew what he was ripping off.
Well, speaking of critics, now that's on my mind, I'll mention Siskel of Siskel and Ebert actually put this on his worst of 1988. Can you believe that?
It got a couple of Razzie nominations at the time.
Wow.
Well, it doesn't deserve that.
For screenplay and also for Billy Barty as a supporting actor. I love him in this, though.
I think Billy Barty was great, and he's in Legend that we talked about a little earlier.
Yeah.
And in fact, you just mentioned Time Bandits. One of the guys from Kenny Baker is in Time Bandits.
I think Tony Cox is also the black guy.
Yeah,
Time
he's
Bandits?
No, he's not in Time Bandits, but he's in this.
Oh, okay.
He's not in Time Bandits?
I don't think so.
Well, when you see him, point him out, because I'm pretty sure all the Time Bandits guys are white.
Yeah. As far as I remember.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I don't see it on his list. It's been a while since I tossed Time Bandits, I guess.
Yeah, that's one that needs a commentary.
Here we're getting into the kind of sorcery part of the story. It's a little more heavy in the novelization. It's explored a bit more. Still not all that heavy, but it gets into it a bit more in terms of the high priest here and Willow when it becomes sorcerer.
Yeah, this is a little perfunctory for me, and this test is not very clear. I think that's one of the problems with the screenplay, is that it doesn't do a very good job of making it clear, A, what is going on, and B, who is who. Like, I kept finding myself, even watching it recently, the second time, I kept thinking, I can't remember what these people's names are all the time.
You mean the two guys standing next to Willow?
The not just here, but I mean, we have the fairy queen. We have the witch.
Chalindria.
Yeah, we have the witch who gets, who's the cursed little fuzzy creature.
Possum.
Yeah. Her, and then we have the evil witch, and they get talked about very quickly, and like the fairy queen doesn't, she's only in that one scene, and it was I kept thinking, I can't remember who these people are. And the creatures, they keep getting called pecks, which is obviously the derogatory term, but I can't even now, I can't remember. You've already used it once. I can't remember what they call themselves.
Nelwins.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the deficiencies in the screenplay is that it fails just a little bit here and there on making clear, like, what is the name of this beast?
It's a death dog.
If it gets used, it doesn't get used often enough for me to remember, and therefore be able to reference it later. And that sort of thing always bothers me a little bit in films.
Well, those I actually think are not spoken about in the movie. I think that comes from the novel.
I never, other than the fact that I didn't know they were called death dogs, I never had a problem. I may not know like the specific names of some of these guys that kind of go on Willow's little Lord of the Rings quest here, but I never had a problem personally understanding who everyone was. Maybe that's because I watched it so many stinking times that I just absorbed it. I couldn't tell you on a first viewing if I held on to everyone's names. Probably not.
It's a minor point, yeah.
But I see what you're saying. I think there are a lot of characters, and some of them are sort of, I don't want to say skimmed over, but addressed quickly and moved on.
Certainly Willow and Madmartigan, and to a lesser degree Sorsha, those are clear enough characters. They're the main characters, and those are the ones we care about. We know who they are. But the quest in general, so we brushed over a little bit. What is the purpose of the baby? Why is she important? Because the baby doesn't end up doing anything at the end of the movie.
Well, that's actually, it is explained a bit more in the book.
Well, she, without you saying that, let me see if I know it, right, in the context of the movie.
Go ahead.
She's prophecy, right?
Yes.
That Queen Bavmorda, knowing that this baby will be born, that will apparently be just wonderful, will be born with the marking of some sort, and so naturally she's checking any woman that gives birth, and sure enough, that woman gives birth, and it looks like she pretty much jailed her, waiting until she gave birth. There's the mark.
Yes.
Okay, and hence our story begins.
Yes, she is the Muad'Dib, or Mahdi of Willow.
Well, the prophecy is something like that she will be the end of Bavmorda, or something like that, right?
Yeah, basically.
But it's really Willow.
Well, Willow just keeps her alive until she can do what she needs to do.
He's like Frodo. He's the carrier of the ring.
Yeah, ooh, good analogy. She's the ring. Ooh, I like that.
Well, yeah, that's...
She's the ring. Good.
Yeah, it's made more clear, like I said, in the novel. It explains more of Bavmorda's tyranny and how she kind of took over the land and, turned everything to black. And
well, it's clear that she's bad. That's all we need to know about her, really, for film
she wears
purposes.
black. Of course she's bad.
Yeah, yes. But
like I said, it's really nice to when the novel gives her backstory and how her life began and when she turned evil and when she cursed the land and how she put a curse on Finn Rizal and put her on that island as a possum.
I like this part.
The bones tell me
nothing. I like how he whispers. He's like, seriously, I got nothing. We're gonna have to play this out, buddy. Okay.
This is one of my favorite moments in the film, and it kind of goes to the screenplay again, I think, because this is one of the few times when a character actually, where there's some actual subtext in what the characters are talking about. Throughout the rest of the film, really, everybody pretty much says exactly what they're thinking and feeling, with the exception of some sarcasm here and there. And that's one of the things I think that makes the film, the screenplay, feel a little thin.
Yeah, I think I can see what you're getting at.
I don't know.
I mean, the movie has always worked for me on maybe a visceral level, I guess. And also because it reminds me of my childhood, so it does make me feel warm and fuzzy inside when I go back and revisit it.
Everything works. I think all the pieces are there and they all fall together. And the Mad Mardigan is the bad guy who, the lovable rogue who redeems himself and ends up becoming a hero, and all of that stuff works perfectly well. It just doesn't feel terribly deep.
No, I guess not. But it's fun.
Bunka. I don't know. So much of this I just remember like emotionally almost because I've seen it as a kid and grew up watching it. Whatever weaknesses there may be in either plotting or character development, I think I'm kind of immune to just because I really quite love it.
Yeah, and I think it really, really spoke to kids because they could just relate to the character of Willow. We have this small person who goes on this quest, and he's going to go through trials and I was about to say tribulations. Trials and tribulations. And it's just easy to relate to, and he goes on this adventure, and they become Willow. And I think that's why it was so much fun for kids and why people our age still love it today. So I remember at the time it was something we just watched over and over again, and we would watch the making of featurettes and stuff like that, like that old show I think it was called Movie Magic.
Yes.
Yeah, there was the special on Willow, and they would talk about how they did their blue screen and morphing effects, which was something that hadn't been done yet. This was the first.
Right.
Yeah, we can talk about that when we get to it. That was certainly a breakthrough thing.
Yeah, the morphing technology. So now here we go, off on our Fellowship of the Baby.
Yeah, we're laying some good groundwork here too, where they talk about curses and the trolls, just letting us know that those things exist in this world, and we can maybe expect to meet them.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny you say that, because I was kind of subconsciously even recognizing that it's exposition, but it doesn't feel like exposition. We're kind of getting set up for those things, but it doesn't feel like in your face. It's they're said very matter-of-factly, like they know that these are just evils of the world, and we, the audience, will eventually catch up, to whatever they're referring to. Yeah,
it's because they're doing the screenwriter's doing two things at once. He's having the children say goodbye to their father. That's the main thing that we're interested in, and they also happen to be mentioning these things that give us information about the world. Yeah,
Daddy, beware of that thing. He's not telling us what some of these things are because they know what they are, but we, the audience, will learn later. Oh crap, that's a troll, isn't it? Or that's a this, isn't it? I like that.
Yeah, it's a good way to introduce without slowing down the plot. And Star Wars kind of does the same thing. It doesn't stop to explain exactly.
No, it doesn't explain what a dewback is. You just kind of learn as you just kind of
get it. Yeah.
Yeah, eventually. And Gandalf is about to send us on our adventure here, so.
Yeah.
Well, he's the high Alduin.
Well, no, he's Gandalf, isn't he? Just a shorter version of Gandalf?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that moment that just passed between Kaya and Willow, I really liked that she gave him her...
yeah, that was a really sweet moment.
Her braided hair, she cut it off and gave it to him. I thought that was really sweet.
Willow moment. Is really a mix of Sam and Frodo, isn't he? He's kind of both. I mean, I realize his little buddy, Migosh, is kind of supposed to be Sam, but really, as far as his characterization goes, Willow is definitely a mix of the personalities of... Because we lose Migosh so quickly. He's basically Sam and Frodo.
Yes.
He's got the family, but yet he's learning his independence and how to be a fighter, and so to speak. How many people are on this right now? How many people have left with him? I'm just curious if he actually did. Is it 9 in Fellowship? 9 people?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think it's 9. I think it's a bit less than that.
Here in this.
Yeah,
group?
in this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I really love about this is it's a genre that doesn't get explored too often.
Fantasy.
It's a sword and sorcery, kind of epic.
They're hard to get right.
Yeah, but there's not that many.
They were big in the 80s, though.
They were like Lady Hawk. What was the other one? Dragon Slayer. A couple other ones, but it's like
I think there was actually one called Sword and Sorcery, wasn't there?
I think
Oh,
so.
probably.
And like I got really excited when Dragonheart came out. Remember that with Dennis?
Yeah, that
Quaid?
was 90s though.
Yeah.
That was
yeah.
Oh, I thought we
Yeah.
were talking about 80s.
Well, I just got excited, and the movie's okay,
Yeah.
but it didn't fill me up the way this movie does. And
Now the Emperor is talking to Darth Vader.
That's right. Giving
the character of Kale.
you stole my line.
This is Pat Roach, the great Pat Roach, who was in the Indiana Jones movies and so many others.
Who? Where? The guy?
Kale, General Kale is Pat Roach. Yeah.
Was he the guy in Temple of Doom that got smushed in the rollers?
Yes. So he was the head guard
right.
in
Okay,
Temple of Doom. He was in Raiders. He was the big German mechanic who gets chewed up by
Chopped
the
up?
propeller.
Yeah, okay.
And
Now, I don't know if any of you know this episode of Twilight Zone, the original Twilight Zone, with the guy is basically a prisoner on a planet, and he gets to the guards basically leave him a female robot, and he falls for. That's Queen Bavmorda. Actually,
It's not a robot.
It's a robot.
She's a woman.
Yeah. Well, just FYI, I happened to have those DVDs and was watching, going, where do I know this woman from? It was driving me nuts.
It's Beth Morta.
Yeah, but she
Wow.
was like 20 years old. It was
yeah,
ridiculous.
I'm sure she's been around, British theater for
I'm
ages.
sure. Yeah.
Your credits
Well,
go
now
back
we
to
have the
1952.
stormtroopers looking for,
Where I was gonna reference Lord of the Rings. They're like,
or the what is it? The Nazgul,
I don't know what they're called.
the
Lord of
death
Rings.
horses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could be them too. Yeah, this seems very familiar.
Yeah.
but it's-
Well, henchmen are henchmen,
Well,
Well,
in the
yeah.
context of this movie, it's just the soldiers of Nockmar.
So let's
Yeah,
talk about the differences, though. The central theme of the film is family, and especially parenthood, isn't it? One of the big reasons that Willow succeeds in his quest is that he is a good parent. He is able to take care of a baby. And one of the big reasons that Queen Bavmorda fails is that she is a bad parent, and her daughter turns against her.
I think you could argue a theme to that. I think another variation of that, another theme of the movie is thinking of someone or something other than yourself, which Willow certainly does right away, which Mad Mardigan eventually has to come to do. Even Sorsha comes to stop thinking of herself and starts seeing the plight of the Nelwyns and the baby and everything. And even a couple, what's his name? The big fat guy here.
Burglecut.
He's of course not doing that, thinks only of himself, and he gets puked on for it. So
Even Mad Mardigan, though, remember, he actually, one of his excuses for attempting to get out is to say, I think I would be a different person if I had a baby to take care of.
yeah, he does say something, I'd be a good father to her,
Well,
But
yeah,
you're
all
right.
the
It is,
characters.
fundamentally, even Willow himself at the beginning says, let's just leave her in the river and not have anything to do with this.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's interesting. I never thought of the movie in terms of parenthood, honestly.
But
Which
it's all
was
about a
directed
baby.
I just never thought of it in that context. But that was Parenthood was directed by Ron Howard, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's a very good point, too, yeah.
Now that we're getting introduced to Val Kilmer playing Mad Mardigan, like I said, the book does explore the characters a bit more, and it tells a bit where Mad Mardigan came from, which I found interesting. It actually talks about the friendship that exists between Eric Thawbear,
Right.
and Mad Mardigan, and how they grew up together, and how Mad Mardigan ended up the state he is. He was once a knight of Galadorn.
Yeah, not unlike Solo, perhaps having been a stormtrooper.
Maybe. Well, he was once a knight of Galadorn, and now he's a disgraced knight. He ended up, he had a great friendship with Eric. They grew up together, and Mad Mardigan was from nobility, but he rejected that nobility. Studied swordsmanship. He apprenticed under somebody.
That sounds kind of like Lone Star.
Yeah, a bit. And what ended up flipping his character was that it was very light in the story. He fell in love with a woman. She rejected him, and he went sour.
He went mad.
Yeah, Mad Mardigan.
Yeah, I remember as a kid not knowing, is Mad just a nickname or is that part of his name? Because they use it all the time.
Mad Mardigan.
Yeah, I just found it interesting that it does tell you where he came from and how he and Eric actually knew each other.
That's one of the great things about the film is that it really does have a sense of backstory. All these characters come into the story. They're not fresh and new. They clearly have a history behind them. Really, kind of Willow is almost the only one. Well, no, even he has that backstory that's not spoken of too much about how he wants to be the wizard's apprentice. Right? He's not just a ordinary farmer living his life.
Yeah, it goes into that a bit, but I never really found the sorcery aspects all that interesting. So when it went into that in the book, it didn't really get to me. But it does explore the sorcery aspects more in terms of Finn Rizal and Bavmorda.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I remember correctly, as I read the book a few weeks ago, so it's gone a bit gray. Bavmorda and Finn Rizal knew each other when they were young. They grew up together. And Finn Rizal fell in love with the prince. I guess he was a prince at the time of Tirasleen. And Bavmorda, being evil, ended up casting a spell on the prince. So he would fall in love with her, which he did. And then he rejected Finn Rizal. And then Bavmorda cast another spell, killed the king and queen of Tirasleen, and then she took over as the queen of Tirasleen. And then, of course, her being evil, the whole land grew evil. And
sounds to
me,
me
sounds like the Lion King.
Sounds to me like we need some prequels.
Well, now that you mentioned prequels, did you know there's actually sequels to this movie in book form?
Oh, really? Well, that makes some sense, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, there's 3 books. Unfortunately, they weren't very well reviewed, but it was continued in book form. Yeah, I think the first book is called Shadow Moon or something like that. But since they weren't very well reviewed, I just never got around to picking them up and checking them out. But I think it would be interesting.
How do you like how Val Kilmer starts off with these awful teeth, and then we see him in the morning like brushing his teeth with a piece of bark or something like that? And then later on in the film, he's got Hollywood teeth.
Okay. I like Val Kilmer a lot, and this was when he was at his best in the late 80s. You know, we have him in Willow, we have him in Real Genius. This is when he was able to have fun. I don't know what happened to Val.
I don't know. He just lost his edge. Something happened. He just stopped caring, I think. Yeah. Let's look at that. So, Top Secret was his first screen credit. Great film. I love that.
Oh, he is so good in that movie.
That was 84. Real Genius in 85.
Yeah,
he actually sang in that. That's right.
And he's good.
Real Genius was 85. Top Gun was 86. Willow was 88. Then The Doors in 91. Then Thunderheart.
Still going strong.
And Tombstone in 93. Batman Forever. Maybe Batman Forever broke his back.
I don't know. He was still riding high with what came after Batman Forever.
Did he have Heat?
And then Island of Dr.
friggin'
Moreau.
loved him in Heat. Yeah, Dr. Moreau, that was not a hit.
No, The Ghost in the Darkness, that was quite good.
It was okay. I don't think too many people cared, but the movie itself was okay.
Yeah, The Saint was not good.
The Saint was certainly poised to be a big hit. It was kind of a letdown, but...
Yeah, I just didn't see a sense of fun come back to Val Kilmer until he did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah, true, absolutely, yeah.
And even then, that was more writing than him. I mean, he's certainly fully capable of doing that character, but I think that was more the writing and directing.
And I think, that's a Shane Black movie.
Yeah.
And also maybe the collaboration with Robert Downey Jr. might have been something that sparked it.
Yeah, maybe so.
That's quite good. That's a lot different from acting across from Elizabeth Shue.
Mm. Of course, here we have Eric, who, this actor, was in an episode or two of Happy Days with Ron Howard, so I'm sure that's how he's got
in
the part.
Superman 3.
Yeah, of course.
He's in the Never Say Never Again, which I just did a commentary for. Yeah,
yes,
he always reminds me of
right?
the guy from Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
Walter Peck.
Yes. Ironically enough, yes, Peck.
What's his real name?
William Atherton.
William Atherton.
Right. This guy's name is Gavin O'Hurley.
I would not have known that. I like him. I like this guy. Especially when you see because in this scene he kind of comes off as kind of a dick. But later on as the movie goes on, you actually like him. When you realize, I think it's in the scene when they're in that little house and they're about to be discovered, and he's kind of standing side by side with Mad Mardigan, and you're like, okay, you know what, he's a good guy. They clearly have some history that made him start off this way in this scene, but he turns around, and I like it's very subtle. They don't throw it in your face. They just kind of let the moment be the moment, and you, the audience, get to feel it out and discover it.
Yeah, I like this scene a lot for that reason. I think I got the impression right off that he was a good guy, and that Mad Mardigan is the guy. I mean, he's in a cage. He's a criminal. There's a reason not to like him, and yet that allows us, the audience, to know that we're going to like him anyway. But we also can like the character of Eric.
Yeah. I mean,
if we ever saw him again.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't come off as completely unlikable, the Eric character, but yeah, I mean, he's certainly not compassionate towards Mad Mardigan's state here. But then, of course, Mad Mardigan makes it hard to be compassionate towards him.
It always bothers me that he doesn't get any water in this scene. He's asking for water the night before. He tries to get water again today. Even when he gets out, he still doesn't get water.
That's true. I mean, yeah, when he gets it on his fingers, he's so desperate he's licking it off his fingers. I hadn't actually thought about that. Poor Willow. He already knows he's made a mistake here. This doesn't feel right. They did get some good acting faces out of this baby. Yeah,
they spent quite a bit of time apparently getting just the right faces to go in here, sure. And it's just amazing what they accomplished. These are, of course, two twins, and they don't have any other credits, so they didn't try to go on to become actors. But it certainly is an expressive face.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think it's just a credit to Val Kilmer's just personality that he brings to this character that makes Mad Mardigan kind of pop as a character. Because there's not a whole real lot to him in this film. It just the essence.
He's a stock character. He's a lovable rogue.
Yeah.
Well, it's just also, I think, his Val Kilmer's X factor, his ability to win you over just by his presence alone, I think.
Well, I know you guys are probably tired of the comparisons, but I mean, it really is. It's Han Solo. It's like you said, he's the lovable rogue. The only reason Han Solo was the huge hit that he was that Harrison Ford has that freaking Harrison Ford thing about him that just makes you go, he's awesome, love him. And Val Kilmer kind of has that same quality. Like you said, it's a very stock character. It's really up to the actor to make it something special. Because he really doesn't have too much of an arc. I mean, you kind of know from the get-go that he's really not a bad guy. He's just fallen on bad times, that sort of thing. And he probably wouldn't do terribly evil things. He'll take this baby, but he'll probably find a not decent home for her before he runs off.
Yeah, because this scene coming up is the real difficult one. How do you get these two back together now without making Mad Mardigan abandon the baby, and the two of them have to find her again? And you do it with these in the craziest way possible. You have the baby stolen by brownies on a bird.
While he was taking a pee-pee.
Yeah, I stole the baby.
Well,
I do like the brownies.
Well, yeah, speaking of the brownies, I don't know. I think rewatching this movie, I think they're an element that just doesn't hold up as well.
I don't know. I think when you see them in group form, they're a little annoying, but because they're like jumping around. But I like the brownies in general.
Well, the two main characters of
they're clown characters, right? They're comic relief.
They're comic relief.
They're comic relief. Yeah. I mean, I remember really liking them as a kid and thinking they were funny, but as I've
This
gotten
is a beautiful
older,
Gulliver's Travels moment, isn't it?
For sure.
You've got dwarves being treated as though they're giants.
I'll break your nose.
When I saw this the first time, I was a teenager, and I thought, okay, these guys, I get what they're supposed to be, but they're not. I don't find them all that charming, and I especially don't find them charming enough for the special effects, because the special effects are kind of weak, comping in those characters sometimes.
Well, I think for 1988, it still looks decent.
Well, it's. I mean, I'm not affected by it because, I'm a child of these times, when these effects were big. But still, I mean, I'm also a student of film, you might say. So, yes, of course, I see all the tricks. I know what they did and all that. But in a way, it's always... Now, these look great. Look at that. That still looks good.
Yeah, I agree. The fairies are quite effective. It feels a little bit like there's too much going on throughout this whole sequence. We've got the brownies. One comes in riding a bird. Then they capture them. Then they just let them go, even though they're working for the woman who told them to let them go in the first place. Then we got the fairies coming in, and the fairies don't really do anything. And then we get the fairy queen actually laying the quest on him, and it feels a little bit too busy. Like maybe we didn't need the brownies and we could use the fairies instead, or vice versa. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does seem to contradict itself a little bit, but I guess as a kid, I just never thought about it too much, and as I grew older, I never thought to question it again.
This is where I felt like, she introduces herself. She talks about what he has to do. She talks about Finn Rizal. You have to go and get Finn Rizal in this place. She tells him where they have to go, which I can't remember the name of that either. And there's too many names floating around at this point.
Yeah, I can't remember if they mentioned the name.
She tells him the name of the baby also, all of a sudden.
Yeah, she's laying down the prophecy right now to them. Because Willow he doesn't know exactly what Alora means, or he just knows he has to get her to the Daikini Crossroads, give her to a human because of the High Alduin said, oh, she's special in some way, but he's not sure why. So we're being informed for the first time
that there's a much greater thing here, right?
Well, we're not being informed for the first time. I mean, Willow is, but
right.
Yeah. Well, I think the Shalindria effect still looks pretty good.
Oh, yeah. I still think it holds up.
That's a real, Gladriel moment in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
The elf princess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard not to compare this movie to other things.
It really is. I mean, the more I'm watching it, the more I'm... the last time I watched this movie, the Lord of the Rings movies had not come out. So this is my first time seeing it, knowing that they were, not the movies, but the story was very much a inspiration for this. Although I think inspiration might even be a bit of a cheat. I think they full on ripped it off.
If it wasn't dwarves, though, I don't think it would be nearly as obvious, because there's a lot of stock characters. I mean, the Fairy Queen is kind of a stock character also, the lovable rogue stock character,
sure,
and that sort of thing. But when you've got this, when you're faced with, basically a shire full of hobbits, that's where you start. It's kind of hard to not make the comparison, and then everything else just falls into place.
Yeah, like this. This is C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yeah.
The little funny characters that are going to go along and be comic relief.
Yeah, they're even closer to the source material for that, actually, which is the
Hidden Fortress.
The Hidden Fortress, yeah. The two characters in there that became the inspiration for R2-D2 and C-3PO, they act just like these guys.
Yeah, I've never seen the Hidden Fortress.
What's the Hidden Fortress?
It's a Akira Kurosawa samurai adventure from the 50s.
Should have known. Okay.
And it's boy, you watch it and you go, oh yeah, that's definitely there. You immediately start making these comparisons to the Star Wars movies. Not unfavorably. He wasn't stealing, but you can clearly see some of the inspirations here and there.
So his inspiration for R2 and 3PO didn't come the way they showed it in George Lucas and Love?
No,
because I found that to be quite the way to go.
That was a great little short film. Yeah.
Didn't he have a principal or something that talked like Yoda?
Yeah, his like student advisor teacher was all, drinking. He was sitting in a Dagobah type setting, sipping his tea, going, a good student you must be. It's like, can you talk forwards? Right. Okay. And then that guy that was working on his car had big shaggy hair, and he's like, woo. It's like, come on, old pal, get that thing fixed.
Another great moment from the baby.
Good face. This is I like the scene. This is a good scene. A lot going on. He runs into Mad Mardigan. Mad Mardigan himself is running from Lug.
Well, I like this kind of the way the scene makes me feel, and how if you're connecting with Willow, how you really feel he's really entered into another world.
Yeah, and he is very vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And to make it worse, this is where the tension comes in. He has to take care of this baby also, so he's really in quite a predicament.
Here we're about to be introduced to the love dust, I guess you could. Is that what it's called?
Is this really the place that you would go looking for milk, though?
Well, I guess it was the first place. There's no AMPs.
The first place he just came upon, no AMPMs.
Seems like there would have to be a farmhouse that
just
would have
look it up in the phone book. It's under A.
Goat or a cow.
If you can't find it there, it's under P. Sorry, we were quoting Scrooged.
So the two brownies here. What do you think of those actors, Kevin Pollak and Rick Overton?
Oh, I like them a lot.
I think they have great chemistry together,
great
and
chemistry.
Their characters are not similar to each other. They both have distinctive personalities.
Yep.
And I think they're quite entertaining, especially Kevin Pollak. He's, of course, he steals the show.
They kind of remind me of Mark and Brian.
Yeah, I can see that.
They're both comedians, stand-up comedians who kind of turned to acting and never really hit it big. But like Kevin Pollak especially always plays like the slightly comical partner of the police detectives in those 80s, 90s, action movies.
Yeah, wasn't he Arnold Schwarzenegger's partner in End of Days? I think.
Well, he had a good turn of it in The Usual Suspects. He was
That's
good
true.
at that.
End of Days, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
It's Lug.
Who? Does he live here in the bar? What?
Yeah, this is a little unclear.
What's going on here? I know, this is weird. Or are they in the stock room?
He's an awfully jealous husband, considering his reaction to just meeting a totally random woman, all of a sudden immediately starting to grope her in front of his wife.
Well, it's her cousin, Hilda.
Yeah. Hilda. Wanna breed?
Yeah, that's an odd line.
That's awesome.
It's kind of a PG line, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely, I'm sure, got a chuckle out of the adults.
Well, that was going to... Did I already talk about... Yeah, sword and sorcery. It's just... It hasn't been done enough, I think, and done well. I think that's why this movie still holds me today, Like, I don't remember liking Ladyhawke.
No, Ladyhawke is awful.
Is it?
I liked it, but it is slow. I remember it as being rather slow, yeah.
Well, when I say it's awful, I mean it's impossible to like with the soundtrack that it has. I don't
remember. Is it a
so
synth soundtrack?
It's got an odd
soundtrack. It's
soundtrack.
bad. It's very bad.
That's one that I've been thinking of revisiting, actually.
Wow. And look at Joanne Whaley. She is absolutely stunning.
The two of them met on this, and of course got
Yeah.
married for a while. They didn't last, but you can imagine.
Not a woman.
Not a woman.
I really like the chemistry between them, and especially the fact that like this little romance that blossoms between them, the way that it happens, and the fact that makes her turn purely on emotion. There's no she doesn't find out that her mother is planning to kill her or something crazy like that. It's just purely an emotional turn that makes her character become a good guy. I really liked that about this movie. That was something I'd never seen before.
I do. I like her turn. You know, she right now in these scenes, she's a certain way, but when she does turn her character around, she does it very convincingly. I mean, I feel like this is a character who has just changed her allegiance, plain and simple. And you see the good that is in Saoirse, and she's just trying to please her mother, really, right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's her turn, her emotional turn, as you called it, is one of my favorite aspects of this movie.
My only problem is that then once she does turn, we don't get anything from her. There isn't a nice conversation either
not really.
between her and Madmartigan or between her and her mother about that fact. She just becomes a good guy, and then she's helping, and she almost disappears in a lot of ways. She becomes like Madmartigan's henchman almost, in a way.
Well, she turns like around the scene when they finally do confront Bavmorda at the castle and everything, and at that point it's all about Willow and what he's doing with the Good Witch of the West, and the only scene I can remember that.
Did we just bring the Wizard of Oz into this now too?
I couldn't remember her name, so
there is a bit of that for sure. Yeah.
So when
another road movie
when Gandalf the Grey shows up to challenge the Queen and all that, but she does confront her mother a little bit towards the end. But the mom is just like, "What? You get out of here!" And she throws her against the wall. And that's it. It's kind of all we see of Saoirse. She doesn't even really get to take part in the big fight at the end, which is kind of disappointing.
Thematically, since this is largely about parenthood and the fact that that Queen Bavmorda is a bad parent, you would think the proper thing to do is then to have Saoirse's turn and Saoirse's participation be really critical to the defeat of her mother.
Well, I always kind of thought
not.
I always kind of thought of it as a tale of like morality. It's like doing the right thing. You know what the right thing is to do. You just have to overcome your fear or whatever obstacle. Like Willow, he knows what the right things are to do, but he just has so many hills to climb, so to speak, to get there. And it's the same for Saoirse. She knows that what she's doing is wrong, that what Bavmorda is doing is wrong, but she has to commit to the correct moral choice.
I completely agree in terms of Willow, but I think we don't get enough of that from Saoirse to get that sense. Literally, the only setup is, who is it, Kale, that says she'll turn against you.
Well, that's
and
one of her,
Bavmorda says, I trust her more than I trust you.
That's one of her priests.
Mm-hmm.
One of her lackeys that says that.
So that's one of the things that I think the movie needs a little more of.
There's not a huge payoff to her switch.
Exactly.
And not even in the book there isn't, but it does set up the relationship between Bavmorda and Saoirse a bit more. So it does make you feel like there's a little bit of a payoff or reason for her to have this emotional change. Because, the romance between Saoirse and Madmartigan isn't as, enticing in the book as it is in the movie. But I found the backstory of Saoirse interesting. The fact that, as I said, her father was the prince and then later the king of Tir Asleen, and Bavmorda is her mother. They had a child. It is her. So she took after her father, and that's where her red hair comes from. So she was exactly, and Bavmorda would constantly try to cast spells on Saoirse during her childhood to get her to change her hair, and Saoirse hated that, and so there was a clear distinction set up between the two of them, that they weren't exactly like. She was more like her father. She had good in her,
That's a good setup, sure, yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. It wasn't too deep, but it was an interesting exploration. I mean, the book was written based off of the screenplay, so the screenwriter didn't have that in mind. This was just what the author put in there,
Right.
of the book. So it was interesting to see, like, well, that's an interesting setup. I like it. It works. I wish it would have been detailed a bit more, but overall, I found it interesting. But visually, it works much better in the movie. Seeing Matt Morgan and Saoirse get together, it just works on a visual level.
Well, that's because they hardly say anything to each other. It's really almost all done with glances, and that comes down to chemistry.
Yeah, they look great together, and like I said, I mean, Saoirse is she's beautiful, and she ended up on a defunct podcast that Justin and I once had. It was an episode about strong female characters, and she was my number one choice of a strong female character. She was my favorite, and it mostly was because of her look, to be honest with you. Because her look just resonated with me so much. Her costume, her hair. And it still gets me to this day, even when I see Joanne Whaley and other things.
Yeah, there aren't too many concessions to femininity. She's wearing very practical armor, and it's only when we see her sleeping that she's looks really feminine.
55 minutes.
And you're 10 times bigger than I am. Are you trying to make my life more difficult than it already is?
Is Val Kilmer still? I know he did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, but
oh no, he's done things since then, but it's just supporting stuff.
Didn't he put on a lot of weight for a particular role?
He put on a lot of weight for some reason.
Yeah, I don't think it's for a role. I think he just put it on.
I could have swore I read somewhere that he put on weight for a particular role, and it was taking him a while to shed it, and he was getting criticized for that.
Wow.
He definitely forked out there for a while. I don't know what he looks like now, but he's got a ton of stuff in the works, in pre-production, and just completed.
Well, good. I mean, I like Val. And I don't know if you've ever listened to the commentary on Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. He has a very kind of dry sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an interesting character.
Warwick Davis in his commentary had a lot to say about Val Kilmer's sense of humor and a little bit of practical joking.
Well, speaking of the commentary, I remember I listened to the commentary by Warwick Davis a long time ago when I first got this DVD, and I remember liking it okay. I wished it would have included Val Kilmer and maybe some other members of the cast.
Yeah.
Maybe Ron Howard as well. I was kind of saddened it was just Warwick Davis, but I was just happy to get the movie on DVD.
This is a pretty good scene. I like how she comes up and just smacks him.
I like Kale's helmet, that skull-like helmet. It's not a human skull. It looks like it might be a gorilla skull.
Yeah, like a cross between a Neanderthal and a...
Yeah, something.
It's pretty cool. It is pretty cool. I mean, clearly the man is Darth Vader, but he's got his own little thing going on, and I liked it. I actually really enjoy that he takes the mask off. That we see him.
Right.
That they don't try and just play him as just some guy in a mask all the time. That they do try and make him a human being under there. I mean, he's still very two-dimensional and everything, but that Bav Morta there just gave him that shot to the chops. I think that's a really cool moment because he is completely subservient to her, and no matter how tough he is, he's still number 2 or number 3. Knowing that she put Saoirse over him.
Yeah, I think in '88 that a lot of children would have been thinking of Skeletor as well.
Sure.
Wasn't there a live-action movie of He-Man?
Oh, yeah.
There was, with Dolph Lundgren, around 1990, I think it was.
Yeah, with Courtney Cox and Tom Paris. And I want to say Frank Langella played Skeletor.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think. It was not good.
No,
it was not. Soundtrack's okay.
Some people like it. There are several commentaries for it.
Really? Where was this shot? Does anyone know?
It was shot. Some parts were shot in England. Some parts in America. This, I'm sure, was New Zealand.
Yeah, I was going to say it had kind of a Lord of the Ringsy New Zealand look to it.
Master of the Universe with Dolph Lundgren was 1987, and you're right, Frank Langella was Skeletor.
Yeah, good memory.
And Billy Barty was in it.
Yeah. Never ever give a baby black root.
You see that? He stole our black root.
Black root is the source of vanilla extract, Warwick Davis says in his commentary.
You mean the actual stuff they used?
It would... Yeah, black root is a real thing, and that's where they get vanilla.
Oh, I see.
I don't know if that's actually true, but that's what he said. I didn't look it up.
That I see. Yeah, I think that is true.
Well, this is the actual island where Finn Rizal was sent to. I don't think it's ever actually given a name.
There's got to be some backstory to this fishing village. It looks like it's been raised.
In the novel, there is, because this whole area has been cursed by Bavmorda. So the fishing village, everyone in it has died. And actually, in the book, when they're crossing the lake, it's actually a bit more dangerous. Here, Willow just rows across it very leisurely, but he's actually encountered by a creature of some kind that has the visage of a child at first, and he's attacked and almost drowned. But
there was a whole sequence, he says, that was shot like a couple of weeks of shooting in a tank where he was fighting a monster, and they ended up cutting it out.
Oh, then that part in the book makes sense. Yeah. I never remember reading the screenplay for this, but a long time ago, like on the internet. That was when I was first getting into reading screenplays, and found it fascinating that you could find them on the internet. And I remember the screenplay being pretty much the same as the movie, except there was a scene, I think, like with a dragon in it or something. I think. And that's the only difference I found, but it was interesting to read. Now, what did you guys think of the choice of Ron Howard?
He seems like he was a very good fit.
Yeah, I like the directing. He kind of got dinged for some reason, but I think in terms of the directing, I think it's fine. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I think I read he was coming off of... he was in post-production on Cocoon. And when he was approached by Lucas to take this job.
Well, Cocoon is good. Parenthood is good. This is good.
Well, Splash... even Gung
Splash
Ho
was decent. Yeah,
it was all around the sun.
There's nothing wrong with these cars.
Backdraft he did in 91.
I did not
shortly
care for
after this.
Backdraft.
Oh, really?
What,
Okay.
what else? What else has he done?
Far and Away in 92, not so good. Apollo 13 in 95.
All three of those, Apollo, Backdraft, and Far and Away, at some point after this, he started getting very formulaic and very by the numbers, and I don't care for that. Just like
I would say that about Ransom.
Beauty.
That was what came later. Yeah.
Ransom, very much the same thing.
Lynch.
American Beauty, which is so regarded as like so great, to me is so filmed by the numbers. I can't enjoy it. Same with Road to Perdition, same thing. And Ron Howard's his later movies, kind of start to have that same feel where they just feel like Film School 101. It's like, follow these beats and you're gonna have a hit. It's like, this is how you do structure, and they're too perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah.
In a structural sense, they're not
They're a little
perfect
formulaic,
movies, but
yeah. A Beautiful Mind didn't. It was a big deal, and it didn't really impress me, and I can't put my finger on exactly why. But Ransom, I very much so along those lines. It just feels like it's just hitting all the numbers.
Yeah.
That's an Australian possum, not an American possum.
That is one big rat.
I like Kevin Pollak's mouse hat.
Yeah. Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely, they're brought into the movie for kids' sake, but they're definitely not annoying like, say, Jar Jar Binks.
No, they are funny.
Yes.
But I've heard from other fan commentators out there or reviewers on the internet that when they saw the Phantom Menace, if they were young when they first saw it, I wasn't, but they were. They said, I liked Jar Jar Binks. I liked him. I thought he was funny, and I needed him in the story for comic relief. And I found that just fascinating that people actually liked him.
My 8-year-old niece and 8-year-old nephew like Jar Jar Binks just fine. They'll learn.
Fascinating.
I just don't know how that character ever... I don't know where that came from. That was just an embarrassment.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, anybody who tries to make a movie, I'm wholly jealous of and can produce a movie, but just that character was such an embarrassment. I mean, even Lucas, who it doesn't seem like you can get to him because he keeps doing things that anger the fans. Even he realized, that Jar Jar Binks was hated, and so his character was significantly reduced in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith.
But he still wouldn't let it go when they did the Clone Wars, the animated CG animated one. They did bring Jar Jar back from time to time, and the guys that are actually in charge of the show, Lucas is executive producer, but the guys that really run the show, you can tell in the behind the scenes that their insertion of Jar Jar from time to time is only because Lucas has basically forced them to, and they're still trying to bring some dignity to that character. And they're just putting on their public face when they talk about it. They can't stand them. And finally devour us. Those guys are just great.
Well, that was always a great line that I liked. You suggesting we go home? No, this is more fun. Yeah.
So Lucas, let's talk about where Lucas was in his career at this point. Howard the Duck had been a huge flop in '86.
I liked Howard the Duck when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
I have a soft spot in my heart for Howard the Duck.
Have you tried to rewatch Howard the Duck recently?
Oh, yeah, a couple times.
Not great, but
it's hard to get through.
But it's still Howard, But yeah, okay, this is 1988, so he's 5 years out of Return of the Jedi. Head down Howard the Duck. And
can I just interrupt that for a moment? I like the way that Mad Mardigan switched places with Willow.
Yeah, that was a nice little unspoken thing.
I like that
business.
Touch.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Justin.
Well, really, I was actually kind of hoping someone would fish and find.
Okay, Temple of Doom was '84.
Okay,
and then he did the Ewok movies and stuff.
Well, he was just producer on those.
Yes. Well, okay. Yeah, but he hasn't directed much at all.
Oh, but even still, I mean, I'm sure his involvement in those Ewok ones was
right.
Well, he didn't direct anything until Phantom Menace. I mean, the last thing he directed before that was Star Wars, the original Star Wars. Yeah.
So Labyrinth was '86. I don't think that was a big hit, but it's really well thought of.
Mm-hmm.
And then Howard the Duck right after that. And he was involved in the Captain EO thing with Michael Jackson.
Right.
Then this, really. And then Tucker was kind of getting back on top. So he had kind of a dark period here in the mid-'80s.
Well, he just produced Tucker. That was Francis Ford Coppola that directed it, right?
Well, yeah,
yes,
but he and Coppola go back
that's what he does. He's a producer. Really.
Well, I was just trying.
Well, mind you, of course, at this point, I'm sure in his personal career, I'm sure he was very much building up his company and less concerned with his personal involvement in films, directly. He was building up ILM. He was tending to his business, so to speak.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And with Tucker in particular, I think that was almost something he loved those cars. He was a huge motorhead. And I think he sort of set up Francis Ford Coppola and then let him go on that. I don't think he was.
Yeah, you don't really tell Coppola what to do.
Right.
So.
He wasn't involved in that as much as he was in this and in the Howard the Duck and those things where he actually wrote the story. Mm-hmm. But then it was '89 before he did Last Crusade.
Yeah.
And since then, the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles and stuff, and then the prequels and Clone Wars.
Yeah. He was busy just making millions on top of millions in between that time, I'm sure. Well, I'm having a dry spell. Let's re-release the trilogy on VHS and widescreen this time. Let's do that.
Yeah, it's awfully hard to know his mind. what he's thinking when he goes forward with the Clone Wars, like aren't there like 3 different versions of the Clone Wars animated stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've given up on trying to understand the way he thinks. I mean, I don't get it.
I just think he's lost touch with reality.
Sorry.
Oh, he knows that we hate all the revisions he keeps making to the original trilogy, yet he keeps doing it anyway.
He's reached a point where he just does not care. I mean, he's satisfying his own things, and hey, that's great. They are his product. Mm-hmm. But just to piss on the fans that made you a gajillionaire, that just seems bad form. But I mean, still, it's his choice to make. I mean,
so here we get the beginning of the morphing stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's terrific. The way this is done is just so brilliant. They didn't just say, oh, we can use a computer to morph between one image and another. They were so smart. They created these transformations that are morphs from one thing to a puppet that is in between. Yeah. And then a morph from that into the other thing. And it's just a really clever, brilliant choice right from the beginning.
Yeah, I recall the behind-the-scenes features on this disc. I think they were talking to Ron Howard, and he was being explained the term of morphing, but I don't think the word morph even existed yet.
Right.
The special effects crew was trying to explain to him what it looked like, and he didn't have a word for it because morphing just didn't exist in vernacular. But Ron Howard said, "What, you mean something like a dissolve or something like that?" There was no way to put it.
Well, it basically is a fancy dissolve, really.
Kind of, yeah.
Of the individual in the frame, not the whole frame. So this is where we're getting into Mad Mardigan's love potion.
Well, this is great, yeah. And I really like that line when Finn Rizal says, "I'm a young, beautiful woman," and he says, "Concentrate, Willow."
Yeah. And she thinks she is, right? Now, apparently she's been under that curse for a long, long time.
Yeah, she's just lost track of time, and that's when she returns to her human form, she says, "Oh, has it been so long?" But I think maybe there was a scene omitted from the script, or maybe from the filming, because in the book there's a scene here. Because as you notice, Willow automatically knows where to go. You know?
Yeah.
He just comes upon this tent, and in the book, there's a scene when he's dragged out of the cell and brought into Sorsha's tent because the baby's crying and she needs his help to feed the baby or quiet the baby or whatever. And there's a moment where they connect, and you see a softer side of Sorsha that kind of is a lead-in to this, I think, to this scene where she's going to fall under Mad Mardigan's love spell. So I think maybe it was...
She is pretty lightly dressed, given that it is snowing outside, and those aren't, strong walls they have there.
Well, she's got those candles that apparently burn all night, so that kept her warm.
She doesn't... Yeah, I don't know. She looks fantastic right here.
In this scene?
Definitely. I just think that they went a little too far, making her look romantic. Or
wow.
In a way, I think we're supposed to see her from his point of view, also at this point, right?
Maybe. I mean, she seems like the type
that he falls in love with her.
Yeah. Well, she seems like the type of woman that would just sleep in her armor.
Yeah, she does. And there's her armor, her booby armor right there.
You see it hanging up in the background, which is a nice little touch. And these are some very good one-liners from Val Kilmer.
Yeah, this back and forth is terrific. They filmed it twice, once early on, and then later on they felt like they'd got better chemistry toward the end of the filming.
Did they do the same thing for when they kiss during Tirasleen, the Tirasleen battle sequence?
I don't know. That might have been shot toward the end anyway, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a shame that...
she really almost got him there.
Yeah, yes, she did.
Every time I see that, I think, good Lord, you almost died, man.
I like that knife. It's a stiletto. It has no blade. It only has a point. It's for killing people by just stabbing through their armor. Ouch.
I never noticed that. That is a particularly vicious little thing she's got there. It's not going to feel good.
Val Kilmer has gone on to many things, but I think it's a shame that you didn't see Joanne Whaley around too much.
Yeah, she kind of faded away. I mean, she's acting. She's out there. She's just lost her charm, it seems like.
Well, she kind of stopped acting for a while to have a couple of kids. But then they divorced, and she got back into acting. But yeah, she just, I don't know. She's done a ton of stuff, but it's all not really big mainstream kind of stuff.
Things.
Well, you know, the only thing I can remember her in was I think it was a movie in the late 90s with Bill Murray called The Man Who Wasn't There. I think that's
I
what
love
it's
that
called.
he falls. What a great moment.
Yeah.
That's a trailer moment. Yeah.
It is. And, you know, here we are, an hour and 14 minutes in the movie, and finally we get to see Madmartigan do something.
Well, there's been a long build up to this.
Yeah, he better pay off, and he's out there kicking ass.
And we're getting it. I mean, we can't hear the music, but the music makes the scene too.
Oh, yeah. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, here this goes back to the screenplay again. The payoff for discovering that he is a great sorcerer is Willow saying, "You are great."
Oh, you mean him being a great swordsman?
Yeah, sorry, swordsman, not sorcerer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to have Willow finally, you are great.
You are great.
Because he
That's
really
not
thought
much
he
of
was
a
full of
payoff.
shit, too. No, but we get to visually see him.
Visually,
and
we
it
get
works.
Yeah, that
Yes,
works.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's directing, I think, and that's why I think Ron Howard does a great job.
Yeah, because so far he's just kind of been a scoundrel with a good heart, and he's talked about, I'm the greatest swordsman that has ever lived.
Yeah, and I mean, they did have the, the chase scene in the wagon, but, he was just kind of fighting for his life. He wasn't really, he was doling it out to these guys here. And, of course, this scene here is really great. This is fun. What do you guys think about him rolling into the big ball at the end?
I think it's funny as hell.
I think it's pretty funny. My nephew called it out. I mean, he literally said he's going to turn into a snowball, and then when he saw the snowball, he was like, "I called it! He did!" He was ecstatic.
I don't know. I think it's
a little over the top.
Going a tad, a little over the top, just a little. I mean, fortunately, they don't dwell on it. It doesn't last long, but
It's a little comical, but I found it. They didn't play it too far, so I thought it was effective enough.
right. Woo! Hey.
This
And,
is a bit Temple of Doomish here, isn't it? Though.
Yeah, I wonder if the soccer players are stranded in their plane somewhere around here. Oh, that was a bad joke.
Can you believe that the baby would be yawning at this point after
Well, that was a nice, relaxing, little bumpy ride.
sledding
she
down
had
the
there.
mountain?
Yeah, they do go into the baby a little bit more in the book. Like she's mature, like a mature infant. So there's a bit of explanation.
Yeah,
to
true.
that.
It's a magic baby.
Mm-hmm.
Where have we seen other magic babies in movies? It seems like that's kind of a stock thing, but at the moment I can't think of.
Well, Ghostbusters 2, there's a baby, but he's not magical.
Oh yeah, true, yeah.
He's just wanted by the painting guy.
Yeah, that's one of the problems with that movie. Is
I don't
it's
love her. She
it's
kicked
just
me in
a
the
random
face.
baby.
Yeah, Oscar. You're named after a hot dog, you poor man.
I do like all the various names. Nockmar soldiers, General Kale. Everyone's got really... The Nelwyns, the Daikinis, they're all really cool
Yeah,
names.
Terrace Lane, Galadorn. They all have very
I
mythical
really do
sounding
feel,
names. Yeah,
this alternate universe.
a sense of place. Yeah,
It does feel very real.
Well,
Yeah,
we
it
can
does.
talk about that a little bit. General Kale is a reference to the movie critic Pauline Kael,
Is that right?
and
Oh, isn't she hated?
she was actually a really good critic, but I think that she probably maybe had given some poor reviews to Lucas's films previously. And of course, the two-headed dragon is called
Ebolisk. Or
Ebersisk. Ebersisk.
Ebersisk.
Oh, right,
yes,
yeah.
I knew that.
But I don't
knew
think
that.
they ever used that in the movie. That was what the
I like this little
nickname
bit
was.
we see here where Eric slips
Oh, that's
Valkymer the dagger or the sword.
It's a good
Yes.
visual cue. Yeah.
Yeah, again, there are quite a few moments like this in the movie where they don't call attention to it through dialogue. They just let you discover it. I like that. It's a rare thing these days, unfortunately. Most things are pretty much have text on the screen to tell you this is a bonding moment between them. Pay attention.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the better, more subtle moments of the film, to be sure.
Yeah, it's a good It's a good thing. In times of trouble, they'll put down their anger towards each other and come together.
Yeah, I mean, he knows what Mad Mardigan's capable of, and he's like, give this guy a sword,
And you do get a sense that there's a friendship between the two of them.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. They have a good sense of chemistry. Speaking of sword and sorcery epics, as I've talked about, do you guys remember First Night?
Oh, yeah.
Did you like that?
Not a film I've ever seen, no.
Not a good one. Don't waste your time.
Because, like I said, I'm a fan of these type of films, and I want them to be good, and I remember it just being very disappointing.
Oh, it just totally didn't get it.
Oh, look at that sword. Oh, man, I love it. The fact that it's, like, serrated. I love just her whole look, everything about it. And I've never been...
Yeah, look at Eric there. He's like, yeah, we're getting it on. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I've never been particularly drawn to red-haired women, but...
I always have, so she just does it for me.
It works here, yeah. The Sword and the Sorcerer is the film I'm thinking of from 1982 with Lee Horsley. That was another big 80s sword and sorcery thing.
Never seen that one.
What was the one with Sean Connery? Was it called The Green Knight?
No, that was he played the Green Knight. That was oh god. That's gonna. Prince Valiant was the guy. Maybe it was Prince Valiant and the Green Knight. Maybe
Sword of the Valiant.
Sword of the Valiant. Yes.
Legend of Sir Gawain. Yeah.
I just watched that a couple months ago through Netflix, and it's remarkably bad. The only thing that's actually good in it is Sean Connery. When he's on screen, he actually really owns. And the guy is actually kind of like Casper Van Dien in Starship Troopers, where his acting is actually so bad that, but his heart is so true that you like him.
Miles O'Keefe, his name is.
Miles O'Keefe, who, he's... I mean, I don't know how much of it was his fault. The dialogue was bad, the staging, the photography, everything was bad. Except for Connery. He whenever he was talking, he owned it. But
and then of course Connery was in Highlander right after that in the 80s, which had a lot of sword and sorcery stuff in it, even though it was partially modern day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that scene that just passed, the kind of confrontation between Eric and Mad Mardigan. Eric doesn't believe him that
that he's changed.
That he's changed. He's had a sense of morality change, and eventually, Mad Mardigan and Eric are gonna, he's gonna be redeemed in Eric's eyes. But I like that he doesn't quite trust him at first, and it really makes, in contrast, it makes Mad Mardigan stand out as, I'm not the scoundrel you think I am. I do have a good heart. I thought it worked really well.
Well, this is a good moment. He's just looking at him.
Yeah.
Like as if he's going to say, ride, Mad Mardigan, ride.
Yeah. Ride, Postman, ride. Do you hear me? There's a movie that needs a fan commentary.
Oh, isn't that 3.5 hours long, though?
That's the only reason we haven't done it.
Oh, boy. Not
you spelled tyranny
terrible.
Wrong.
I remember kind of enjoying that movie in a weird way.
We have a...
It's a guilty pleasure of ours.
Yeah.
It's got its drawbacks, though, boy. You're famous. No, man, you're famous.
Yeah, Tom Petty.
Yes.
Yeah. Weren't you a singer?
So this is a nice little scene that we get the real chemistry between them. This is the only real conversation they get.
Yeah.
Actually, it is. It's pretty brief too.
It's the romantic break, really. If this is their romance, and of course, in any romance, you have to have a conflict between the two characters. They overcome it to fall in love, and then they have a romantic break, and then they come to an understanding, and they fall back in love again. Yeah. This is as much of a romantic break as they get.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the scene, she does have that brief look back, which is again, just without dialogue, it makes it work. You realize that she really does feel something for him, but she goes back to what she knows. Well, safe.
She was waiting to hear what he said until he's like, "Well, it went away." She's like, "It went away." She could have knocked him in the chops anytime. She actually wanted to be there.
Yeah, because she. I mean, look at this look right here. She
was letting him keep her.
Yeah. You could see it in her eyes, in their eyes
she
too.
wants to stay.
It's all just visual poetry, and I love that when they decide not to go with dialogue and just let it play off their faces.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely when the film works best. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And ouch. Yeah, we're gonna get her look back right here with a really good music cue. Definite stunt double for Willow right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right here. Here's her look. You can see it in her eyes and in his eyes. She wants to go, but she can't. Not yet. And there's actually a bit of more explanation of to what this area is in the book. It's actually... we had an overshot where it looked kind of like a maze. And that was actually something that was set up by Bavmorda. That was set up around this castle of Tirasleen to prevent people from actually getting there. And there's actually a whole sequence that's in the book that wasn't in the screenplay, obviously, where it was a bit of a to-do to get through that maze. Yeah, here we have Tirasleen, the cursed castle.
This is another nice thing. It's kind of like it's a ramp up. This is all rising action here. From the ruined fishing village, we get this whole ruined castle. It's like this land is in ruins. It's a little strange that these characters don't seem to be aware of it. They don't know that this whole castle's been destroyed. But I guess news doesn't necessarily travel fast in those days.
Yeah, I mean, they know obviously that the land has fallen on hard times and that Bavmorda is ruling with an iron fist, but they're not aware that Tirasleen was cursed in this way. Exactly. And I found it interesting that actually when Sorsha comes to the castle in the book, she finds her father in one of these kind of, entombed in one of these kind of ice blocks.
Do we know, is that something Bavmorda did, or is that what the trolls do?
What do you mean, them being entombed?
Yeah, did the trolls freeze those people like that? Or
No.
Did that happen and then the trolls came and infested the place?
The trolls are just, an infestation like rats.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all over the place, especially in the book. This is all an effect of Bavmorda. And we're going to see the next transformation. She's going to become a goat. Yeah, I never really thought about the language of the incantation until the subtitles are on, and again when reading the book, there's actually a lot of abracadabra, type words that I never really thought of before.
Yeah, usually it's kind of nonsense Latin, and
yeah, I like this costume. Never really big on the helmet, but
I agree.
Yeah. A little goofy, but he looks great in it. I mean, he's a good-looking guy anyway, but
it looks like a
really,
parade helmet.
It's a little silly. Thankfully, he takes it off. He doesn't fight the whole battle with it on. This is good. This is a good kind of light comic touch. What happened to you? Yeah, again, this just kind of reminds me of Excalibur, the way the Arthur and the land were kind of tied together. When he loses Excalibur, the land falls on hard times, and that's when the reign of his sister, was it, and her,
Morgan Le Fay?
Yeah, and her son, his son,
Mordred.
Mordred, yeah, that's when they rule the land, and that's when it's fallen on hard times. Again, just reminds me of Excalibur, and that those are things you just never really think about until you start really analyzing the movie. Before I just kind of just accepted this movie as is. I never really thought too much about it.
Certainly, yeah. The idea of that the land has fallen on hard times, and the Holy Grail is the thing that you need to bring it back. That's definitely very much. The Grail cycles from those legends.
And I really love the arc of Willow's character. I also think of, here we're getting him confronting the troll and using the wand, and I really get a sense of him growing, and I like his arc, and I think of it as a hero's journey, but also I think of it as kind of like a coming of age story. I think of like The Sandlot. Are you familiar with that movie?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think of him as starting off as a child and then overcoming his fears and confronting the beast, just as they did in that movie. That movie wasn't about the big game. It was about them getting over their fears. And that's kind of the way I think of it here. He's just kind of growing up and getting out into the world, overcoming his fears.
Yeah, that's the lesson that Billy Barty tries to give to him as he departs, right? Believe in yourself. That's where the power is.
Yeah, have confidence in yourself. Exactly. This affects still.
And then he didn't mention anything about accidentally creating any dragons, but that would have been handy advice as well.
Yeah. The comps for this Iborsk, is that what it was called again?
Ebersisk.
Ebersisk looks pretty good. I like this. This is a really good moment. You realize he's surrounded by Nockmar soldiers, and they all don't know what to do. I found that really funny.
They're all just taken aback and frightened by the giant fire-breathing monster.
Yeah, so they all just have a double take, like, what? It still works today. I like it a lot.
And the dragon is fantastic. I think that works beautifully.
Yeah, it does. The dragon, again, it's given more backstory in the book. I can't remember exactly where it came from, but it was explained where it came from. It had something to do with one of Bavmorda's curses, something like that. I like that. Even as a goat, she tries to help out.
Yeah.
That was a good touch.
I think the trolls are a little less successful. They're just dudes in suits.
Yeah. I never really.
But they're a minor part of things here.
Yeah, thankfully. I always felt really bad for these Nockmar soldiers, even though they're the enemy, that they're getting eaten by this thing. I'm like, yeah, they're bad guys, but geez, they don't deserve that.
We don't get much of a payoff for the what is it? Acorns that turn things to stone. He just dropped one, and we see that, and of course he uses it unsuccessfully at the end of the film. He was supposed to use it in the lake adventure when he was confronted with the giant lake monster. He was supposed to use it successfully there.
He did. Thank you for reminding me of it. In the book, that sequence is detailed, and he did use it on the creature, and it turned to stone. It sank.
In a way, it's too bad we didn't get that. I don't know if they cut it for pacing or because it didn't look good or what, but...
I can imagine it was pacing.
Yeah, the story kind of did need at least that moment. When you set James Bond up with 3 gadgets, he needs to use all 3 gadgets, or it just seems like, wait a minute, doesn't he have 1 gadget left over? Why did we even see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. Pacing, because this movie clocks in at like just about 2 hours, and I think maybe that scene was needed though as an action beat, because I think the film kind of hits a lull around that point, and I think maybe an action beat would have been good. But I think they were just trying to get it in under 2 hours.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. You want to go shorter rather than longer for a movie aimed primarily at kids. Yeah. I think the pacing works pretty well. The way that overall it's a road movie, but we have this. We're getting to this point. First we get to the crossroads, then we get to the discussion with the what's her name, the fairy princess, and then she sends us off. We get here, we get to our goal in stages. Each time we get a little more advanced. Right, there is a point before this that there's not a whole lot going on.
Yeah. I wish there would have been a little bit of a emotional payoff there when we see Willow actually kill someone.
Yeah.
Maybe just a look on his face or something like that this is something.
Yeah, I would think it should have been akin to that moment in Finding Neverland when Johnny Depp is looking at the boy and one of the brothers has just broken his leg on stage. And there's that moment, it's a beautiful moment, where Johnny Depp is looking at the oldest brother and the oldest brother's looking at the stage. And there's this quiet moment and he sighs. And Johnny Depp looks at him and goes, "Oh, the boy is gone. You know, there, here's the young man." And yeah, just a little moment like that to see Willow change, not unlike the journey that Frodo takes, where he goes from an innocent to, someone a little more hard. And, but that was definitely a moment. You're right. I never even consciously thought, I certainly know he probably killed that guy, but, that was something he's never done before, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and now we have Saoirse. She's made her change of heart, and we just had, I think, to be one of the best kisses in Hollywood history.
That was terrific, opinion. But I think we need a payoff for that would be that the two of them are fighting back to back and they're saying something to one another. Something. I'm not sure
that
what it
to me would be so
be.
Over the top.
You think?
Yeah, I think of that. I just thought of that when you said that, fighting back to back. I thought of that scene from Hook when Robin Williams and Rufio started doing that.
This is good with Willow beaten down and coming out bloody.
Yeah.
That's a really good shot. The poor little guy's just almost broken here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like there's just never anything spoken between them about the fact that she just betrayed her mother's army.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there needs to be.
I think it's all visual poetry. It's about love.
Well, it is. It's just, they know. There's really nothing to talk about. They know what she's done. She knows what she's done. She probably didn't particularly want to talk about it. That's that. She knows that Kale is going to rat her out, and that'll be that.
I really like that moment that passed with Matt Mardigan and Willow, and he's holding Willow, and there's a real sense of tenderness.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that.
He's like, "Look, you guys can throw as many people as you want at me, but you just hurt my little friend here, and that's too much. It's like hurting a kid." There's rules. Rules here? No, there's no rules here.
It always makes me wonder, like, do all these other soldiers of Galador know that Saoirse is now on their side?
I'm sure they figured it out. Okay, this is a group meeting for all the team leaders. Saoirse is a good guy. Really, don't attack her. Red hair, easy. Stay away. Turned against me. Doesn't seem like a very safe throne room.
Yeah, it's definitely sort of Death Star.
Got to get some railings up on those
construction,
walkways.
Isn't it?
Yeah, good Lord. Drunken night and you're toast. They're like, yes, laugh with our minions.
Yeah, like Dr. Evil. Yeah, doesn't that scene just go on with them laughing and they stop?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. It's been a while since I've seen those films. Well, this is where the morph is really going to be seen in its all its
glory.
grandeur. Yeah.
Yeah, previously they used some trick puppets and we just saw a little bit of it, but yeah, here we get the whole sequence. Of course, now first we got to go through the pigs, though.
Oh, this is some good makeup effects work too.
This is kind of a gruesome little scene here.
I always thought so too as a kid.
Yeah.
It's always scared me. Yeah,
it's still kind of grotesque.
it is.
And it's great because we get to see her in her full evil sorceress glory, because up to now it's kind of just been background and rumor.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing it. She's turning a whole army into pigs. This is quite terrifying.
Yeah, and it does really bring a sense of terror and tension, though, because as
Yeah,
a
look,
kid...
and she gives her that shot right here. She's
Right there.
like, oh yeah, I'm going to get you too.
Yeah, I like that personal moment.
Yeah, that was a personal hit just for her.
Yeah.
And this is largely also borrowed. This comes from the Odyssey, right? Circe turned the Odysseus's men into pigs.
No, I didn't know that.
I was not aware. I've never read the book. I remember Armand Asante playing.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was
in the
thinking of.
miniseries.
There's an underrated actor.
Oh yeah. I don't think he's underrated. I just think he's been somewhat forgotten. But
Well, I still think his best role was in Fatal Instinct.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I love the way she's sort of, her underclothes are mummy rags.
Yeah, that's pretty
bandages.
crazy.
It looks
just a great
cool.
touch.
Yeah.
I don't understand why she can't just kill the baby. What's she doing here?
She's actually trying to. It is explained a bit more in the novel. I know the screenplay is a bit light on it, but it does explain exactly what she's doing. She's not just trying to kill her.
She's trying to negate the prophecy, I think.
She's trying to send her into oblivion. Completely erase her existence, and that's what this whole ritual is all about. It's not too heavily explained. I don't think it really needs to be, but that's kind of what's going on with her.
What exactly she's doing is, I think, less important than the fact that we're actually missing the setup to the payoff to the very end of the film, which is, I don't think we ever really get the understanding of what pieces need to be in place in order for her to banish someone, so that then we get the payoff of she accidentally banishes herself.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. That would answer my question, like as a viewer going, why is she doing this,
Yeah, once she's accidentally destroyed herself, her curse is lifted. Mm-hmm. And that's why, everything kind of looks bright and green in the end around Tierslien.
Well, yeah, it's the Lord of the Rings moment.
Yeah, if you think of the way that...
Not Lord of the Rings, Lion King.
Oh, yeah. If you think of the way that the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie is set up, they're quite clear on what the curse is and how the curse has to get lifted, and they're mistaken about whose blood they need and that sort of thing. But when it actually comes down to the very end, it's very clear to the audience what just happened to make... what's his name? Barbossa... human again, and then die from the gunshot wound he just got seconds earlier. That is what we needed here. That kind of a setup so that we understand it, that when the blood spills and she gets hit by lightning, that's the thing that we needed to finish the spell. And then the consequences of that, you're right, that it erases all of her curses. Though that would have been helpful.
Yeah, it's just not something I thought of too much, I guess, when I was younger. It just kind of, like I said, it just washed over me. It just kind of...
Well, yeah, I mean, you get the idea.
Yeah.
It's some sort of sacrifice or something like that. But still, it's taken up screen time, so it should have some sort of substantial meaning,
Well, I think as a kid, there's so much in life that you don't fully understand that you're willing to accept things like that at face value of, okay. The bad lady got hit by lightning and now she's gone away. That's fine with me.
Yeah. And so now they're doing the Odyssey again, of course. Somewhat, hiding their army and...
Yes. That's almost the Iliad, right? Where they're...
Yeah, that's is that what it is? Is it the Iliad or...
Yeah. Strangely enough, the wooden horse is actually not in the Iliad. That actually comes from Virgil's Aeneid. And now I bust out my English degree. But he's in the Aeneid. He's talking about the Trojan War when he describes the Trojan horse, where they hide the soldiers inside.
You mean the original inspiration was not from Mom and Dad Save the World?
It's not.
With the giant Todd head?
Nor is it from Monty Python and the Holy Grail with the giant
great
wooden
movies.
rabbit.
Yeah. Lancelot, Galahad, and I jump out of the rabbit.
Wait,
Yeah.
should we be in it now?
We were just talking over
dang,
that.
she looks good there. Oh,
Sorsha.
yeah, mama. She's just wearing that outfit.
Sorsha, not Finn Rizal.
Yeah, well, for her age, she's looking kind of good there. I mean, she's basically Gandalf, the female version. So,
We were talking over that moment when Bavmorda was going into her incantations, and I loved the performance by the actress. She was just like reveling in her evilness. It's just delicious to watch. She was just so good at it.
When my nephew saw this, his response was, "Why did they have to hang heads everywhere?" It's just the symbol of evil. This is what we do.
It's the universal sign for evil. Yeah. Now, as a kid, Justin, were you fooled? Did you think the army left?
no, of course not.
Okay.
I don't think it's quite clear that we don't know where the army is. I always kind of thought when I first saw this as a kid that they were in the tents, because we saw them in tents a minute ago, right? And they're just out of frame or something. I didn't quite get that this looks like they've departed completely.
Well, I mean, Bavmorda had no problem seeing them in the middle of the night. I just wonder how they were supposed to have pulled this off with those people up there clearly watching their every move. You know? Although, that would have been a real easy scene to shoot for, what's her name here?
Finn Rizal.
For Rizal to have cast a spell that kind of put a fog over the area so they could all do their little hiding trick.
I like that.
That would have been good, sure, yeah.
That would have been a nice little moment.
That's like Merlin, casting the spell.
Laying down the fog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In John
Excalibur.
Borman's Excalibur? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the only Excalibur I ever.
Yeah, that's the only real Excalibur.
Well, some people.
That movie deserves a commentary, too.
Oh, God, definitely. I love that movie.
Borman's commentary is pretty darn good.
Oh, yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Courage, Willow.
Yeah, she says patience. He says he encourages himself by telling himself to have courage. That's weird.
Dun, 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 dun. Hey, let's go back, guys. This isn't going to work out.
See, now I'm thinking of Army of Darkness.
Right,
yeah. Skeleton Storm. I've got a bone to pick with you.
Doesn't it seem like the brownies could have somehow infiltrated the castle and let them in? It seems like there was some potential there.
They're so small.
They could have flown in there with another bird and just got that baby out of there.
I suppose.
That's right. Yeah, they stole the baby before using a bird.
Yeah, that would have been pretty easy for them, I would think.
Now, is she making it rain inside there? How did that happen all of a sudden?
Well, she's under that open, skylight, sort of.
Yeah.
That's how the rain's getting in. Now,
But it just started raining just now, right?
Well, yeah. Bavmorda's calling, for the lightning and
oh, that's
all
right.
of that.
Yeah, that's right. She needs the light.
Now we're coming up on Eric's death here eventually, and it's pretty gruesome. It's not like visually where you're seeing guts or anything, but it's just you really feel him getting killed. And
it's a good death.
It is a good death. I mean, not just when he's fighting Kale and Kale really takes him, but his last moment with Mad Mardigan where he's like, you're just like, oh God, buddy, that looks like it hurts.
Yeah, win this war for me. You mentioned the word gruesome, and this movie was made for young boys, I would say. You know? And I'd say the book would be the same. The book is kind of gruesome in the way it describes some of these battle scenes with people being decapitated or throats being slit and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, Eric just cut that guy's throat there a minute ago, so.
Yeah, but reading about it is a completely different thing.
Well, yeah.
And it's detailed in a way that I don't think is good for someone of that age.
Warwick Davis in his commentary mentions a couple of spots that got cut by the censors in the UK. Kale's death is one of them. That gets truncated, and I forget another spot earlier that did.
Yeah, I mentioned our defunct podcast. We did one that was called Top 5 Death Scenes, and Kale's death was my number one death scene.
It's a really good one, yeah.
I love it so much. Everything about it, the music, the choreography, even though it isn't a very detailed choreography, I'm just so much in love with it.
You mean Schwarzenegger's thumbs up death from Terminator 2 didn't rank as number one?
Well, yeah, no.
I do like. See, now here's our moment with Sorsha, where she is trying to challenge her mom, but of course it doesn't work out. But we were talking over Bab Morta's line, where she goes, Sorsha, I must despise you now.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, understand, child, I have to kill you. You brought this on yourself.
Yeah, I said, when their relationship was detailed more in the book, this scene has more impact.
Yeah.
But still, it works here. But here, she's kind of like, Sorsha is pacified in a way that I'm reminded of Obi-Wan Kenobi in Attack of the Clones. When he gets cut on the leg a little bit, then he passes out for some reason during the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Count Dooku?
Yes. Yeah, with Count Dooku.
Yeah, he snaps his something, a tendon or something. It's kind of if you think about it, I mean, at some point Lucas is saying, okay, we're going to have 1/3 of the battle be the two old chicks fighting, but really, this is going to work. Okay.
Yeah, that must have been hard to sell.
Can you imagine some of the studio people going, really?
Well, you know what, though?
No, man.
At least it's better magic. As a wizard duel, this is better than just about anything in the Harry Potter movies, I think. In the Harry Potter movies... It's pretty much just
mano a mano, yeah.
In the Harry Potter movies, they really kind of just have phasers that they have set on stun, and they just knock each other down a lot.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
this part always gets a laugh for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. You can look at Bab Morta. You can see how she's become kind of a
doll,
skeleton-like. Yeah, that's really detailed in the book of how much this ritual is taking out on her body.
Oh, you see her face. Yeah. She's getting ripped up and everything.
Well, yeah, she's just like her face becomes sunken.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's detailed in the book. Not here visually, we're told, but in the book we're told why. It's because this is taking so much out of her. This ritual.
Right.
I found
that's something I think that comes from Lucas. I think that is one of the nice things I think in general, because in the Star Wars movies also, the Emperor. It takes a lot out of him
to his own magic, so to speak.
The dark side of the Force, when he does it. And we see in this film also Willow, when he uses that wand, it hurts his wrist, it hurts his arm.
Yeah,
that's good.
There's a cost to that magic.
That's very good. When it's evil magic or violent magic or in Willow's case, probably just wrongly used or not done correctly magic.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but like with Bab Morta, she's doing evil, so it's taken away her life in some way. Now here we go. He's just getting his ass kicked. Brutal.
And you really feel sorry for him.
Oh, I know, with his own knife.
You feel it. This is good. This spit.
And that music.
Yeah.
You're hitting a real low here,
And that makes Kale all the better of a villain to be defeated by Matt Mardigan. It makes Matt Mardigan all the better as a hero.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this just became his tackling fuel.
It's more for me. That may seem like a cliched line, but I love it anyway.
Oh, well, it's this right here. This it wasn't just this quiet death. That hurt.
Yeah. Right. This is good right here. We're gonna get this "I'm calling you out" moment here. He's putting on that little thing on his hand, and then he's gonna say, Kale's gonna gesture him over with his arm coming up right here. This is a good moment right here. Yeah, it's like, come on.
Like, bring it on, pretty boy.
See, no dialogue. Again, it's just all visually done, and it works so beautifully.
Yeah, already he's getting his ass kicked. This is good. This is why it works, Kale's not weak, Well,
you didn't see it happen so quickly. That sword that he attached to his hand just got cut in half.
Yeah. It just became a dagger.
Yeah, that's the thing that. Ooh, that hurt. That's.
I know
that
was a good shot.
That's the his sword on his hand that got cut in half. That's what enables him to deliver the death blow to Kale.
Right, that he steps on and.
Well, it's not that sword. It's a different one.
Oh, right. No,
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Ooh, dangerous place to fight.
Well,
I do think Willow fighting this thing was too much.
a little bit. Well, here comes the death. Here comes my favorite death scene. I know this moment very well. Here it comes. I can hear the music in my head.
Oh, I know.
I've replayed this so many times.
Oh, I know. It's great.
Here comes the move. And there's the half dagger right there.
Yeah.
Look at the smile on his face.
He's like, gotcha. Oh, and these two shots he takes, these backhands. God, I love that. He's like, ow.
Yeah, the fact that he hits him, backhand him, then he starts choking him. He's just not giving up easily.
Yeah. Although I do think they kind of cut to this fight a little quickly.
A little too quickly, yeah.
Yeah, we should have had about 30 to 60 seconds more of them fighting before it really got to his death blow there.
But that sinking, you could feel that sword sink into his stomach.
Oh, yeah, man, you hear it.
And what a great move, just lifting that sword up with his foot and then pulling him down on
Oh,
it.
I know.
Just visually looks so freaking awesome.
And
And then we cut to the old lady fight.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, really, at this point, we've lost Kale. The movie's over. I mean, they should really wrap this up quickly.
Yeah, look at her face. Look how much this is taken out on her.
She's shredded.
Yeah.
So how do you like the callback to the pig, to the disappearing pig trick?
I liked it.
Yeah, it was all right.
It brings
Although I'm unclear, because it was a trick. So when Willow acts like he's in pain afterwards, what is that about? Because he didn't actually use real magic.
I think he was just trying to fake her out, maybe.
Yeah, that was just faking her out. But it is a weird move, yeah.
Yeah, because he acts like he's genuinely in pain.
Yeah, I think that was just him trying to sell that it was actual genuine magic and not just a sleight of hand trick.
Maybe.
So yeah, this is the only time we ever see visually the stone work on something.
Yeah.
And she just shakes it off, and you're like, oh, crap. What's he going to do now? Yeah, is that the extent of your powers, little one?
You know what, though? That is important because it establishes that he has at least some magic power. So it makes the fact that he might be able to make this baby disappear a little more believable to her.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can see I think he just had the idea right there. So I think right now he's not actually holding anything.
Well, yeah, that's why we saw him die behind that thing. We know he switched the baby right there.
Yeah.
But you have to think of, so he's got this disappearing pig trick, and he's been carrying it with him?
Well,
I don't know.
I might need to make a pig disappear sometime. Well, you know what? Maybe he actually thought, I might need to make this baby disappear sometime. So he kept the disappearing pig trick with him as he traveled.
Well, I always just kind of thought of it, he's holding the rags in a way that makes it, well, see, now it looks like there's something in it. But I always thought he was holding the rag in a way that made it seem like it was full of something when it actually wasn't. That's why he just kind of shakes it out right here.
It's actually, he says in his commentary that it's actually balloons, 2 balloons that pop.
Oh, okay. Impossible.
There goes the blood, but we don't know what the blood is for, and then I guess it works well enough.
It's just a part of the magic ritual. Like we see Willow mention very briefly the life spark when he's mixing something in a bowl, with the wand when he and Madame Mortimer are in that cage. It's something like that. And again, it's just not explained all that well. But
now Sorsha conveniently awakens
up
after the battle's over.
Yeah, that is disappointing that we don't get to see Sorsha do a little more. Even if she was just trapped outside the room fighting people, something.
Yeah. It's kind of like Princess Leia at the end of Star Wars. She's just in that room watching everything go on, and she's not even calling out the attack waves. She literally just says, hey, is anybody else in position for an attack? And they go, yes, and then they go attack. she's not given enough to do.
You're right. You know what I was just thinking though? Wouldn't it have been cool to see her try to fight Kale, and she gets her ass handed to him?
Oh yeah, that'd be all right. Yeah,
and Val Kilmer
or she
comes
and
to
Matt
rescue.
Mardigan combine to defeat Kale.
Maybe.
I
Yeah,
just think it would have
to
been-
make Kale's threat even more.
Yeah, I think it would have been nice
Yeah.
to see her be attacked by Kale. I think that would have been pretty cool.
Yeah.
See, everything is returned. The curse has been lifted. Tyr's lean. Everyone has been taken out of their ice cases.
Everybody's laundry comes back from the cleaners.
Everyone looking their Sunday best, and
See, a little bit more would have been here. Would have been nice, you know, especially especially between Sorsha, maybe Matt Mardigan, give them something, you know, another dialogue scene, maybe.
Yeah, right.
I really don't think it's needed. I think it's quite clear what's going on. I actually kind of like that there's no
Yeah, that's a good point. It would have been too much, but
overly
visually,
sentimental
yeah.
dialogue. We get it.
That's a good point. Good point.
In a way, we almost don't need anything. We could have skipped that whole moment of the goodbye, because it really is. It's something that must have happened, but
Well, I
it's
think
just saying goodbye.
I think it's needed to be there.
I think it's neat. Yeah, I don't think there's
He
any
could have
guarantee.
waved. He could have waved to them from the top of a hill or something. I don't know.
I'll
But-
give you that. You know, he could have seen them from a distance and seen Mad Mardigan and Sorsha holding them. You don't necessarily see what looks to be as them as a couple, although you know they're a couple. But
I think it works. It gives us just enough. You know, Finn Rizal gives him the book, you know,
Yeah,
the sorcery book, and
Yeah.
they don't say anything to each other. Mad Mardigan and Willow just exchange looks, and he gives him a handshake. You know, that's it. So I think it works.
I like that Kaya looks different here.
With her
You get a sense of time,
growth.
has
Yeah,
passed.
time has passed. Yeah, I mean, you get a real sense he's been gone for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and this is just a blending of Frodo and Sam returning home.
He's been gone for a while and didn't get the crops planted, and now he's lost his farm, and she has had to turn to prostitution, presumably.
Well, yes, because it's hard to believe that the big fat guy would have not still taken his stuff. You know,
Yeah, that's true.
Burgle cut, yeah, would still
Burgle
foreclose.
Yeah, the book does explain a bit more on that, how they're able to survive. It's through the help of friends that they're able to keep their farm going.
That makes sense. That's good. That would be
Well,
actually that would
Migosh
be
did
great,
come
wouldn't
back,
it?
so-
Wouldn't it be great for him to come home and to his home and find all of these people, you know, finishing up planting his crops?
Or that
would be
Migosh
good.
stole his wife.
or just to find Migosh tending to his things, going, "You are just,
yeah, good touch.
Yeah.
you are just planting my fields, right, bitch?" Because I'm a fucking sorcerer now.
Yeah, you see Migosh out. You see Migosh out there with some neighbors, and the kids are helping out. And
Yeah.
Slow, the farm's still going because they did make a big deal out of it at the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, here we are. We're in the credits now. Just faded to black.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good looking back on this movie with someone else who obviously has a lot of affection for it as well. And I guess you're right. There aren't too many people out there who do remember this, and if they do, they haven't seen it in a while because there's not too many fan commentaries out there for Willow, as far as I know.
Just one, yeah, that I know of for sure.
Yeah, just one. Have you listened to it?
I have, yeah. It's the Hey, Want to Watch a Movie group.
Yes. Okay.
And it's kind of a party commentary. They just
Oh, that's a shame.
yeah.
Well, I hope with our commentary we're able to draw some new audience to this, and also just for people who hadn't seen it in a while to take a look at it again. Definitely. Justin, do you have any other final thoughts on Willow?
Well, as a movie itself, without knowing any of the things that it may have drawn from, I think it's a very good, entertaining movie that holds up against. I mean, this was 1998, so you know this is what over 20 years old now, and still holds up, still plays. When you do know, when you're able to analyze it from the sources that may have borrowed from and all of that, yeah, you're going to look at it a little differently. But if you just put that aside and just look at Willow as Willow and leave it at that, I think it's a very good movie and it holds up. And it's one of those movies that I can look back on from my childhood, thankfully, that is just as good, if not even a little better than the way I remember it. So that's what I have to say about it.
I think that in a way it almost plays better today than it did when it came out, because we have a little perspective, and at the time it was much too easy to compare it to Star Wars and to other things that were going on. And I think this film, we're watching this film, we're not watching the Sword and the Sorcerer, we're not watching Lady Hawk, we're not watching those other things, because this one holds up better than they do.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And unfortunately, I think, as was our case tonight, people are going to reference or refer to Lord of the Rings a lot, because of those new films,
True.
But I think the film definitely holds up. But yeah, you two just pretty much encapsulated how I feel about the film. Is there anything you like to plug? Yourself or...
Not really. Just
okay.
If you want more of Tysto commentaries, go to tysto.com. tysto.com.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend checking out Tysto's website. He's got a wealth of commentaries. A lot of them he does solo, which is really hard. I commend you on that. I don't know how you do it. But he's got a whole wealth of commentaries on a wide array of films, so definitely check it out. If you want to try out some of our stuff, we're at solusminions.libsyn.com, or just go to our forums, solusminions.yuki.com. Check out in the future, hopefully you'll have another collaboration with Tysto, and we're also going to be having another collaboration on Star Trek V with a group called Geek Fights. So you can check them out on geekfights.net, so look for that. But
I look forward to that.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. That makes one listener right now. So. Look forward to recording it. But this is Josh. It's been a pleasure. I'm signing off.
And this is Justin saying good night.
And this is Tysto. Good night.